When you think of warfare, you imagine trenches carved into mud, artillery thunder rolling across scarred horizons, and soldiers pressed against earth that trembles with each explosion. But beneath the chaos of the Great War lay another conflict entirely, a silent, calculated war of deception where landscapes themselves became weapons. This is the story of how soldiers and engineers transformed the natural world into an elaborate network of concealment, turning forests into fortresses and meadows into mirages. What they created wasn't just military necessity, it was fieldcraft, elevated to an art form, and the techniques they pioneered remain relevant to anyone seeking to understand camouflage, shelter construction, and survival in hostile environments today. Picture, if you will, a corpse of shattered trees standing in no man's land, their branches splintered by shell fire, their trunks blackened and hollow. Among them stands one tree that looks identical to the others, except it isn't dead at all. Inside its steel shell, a British observer crouches in darkness, watching enemy movements through a carefully concealed slot, his breathing shallow, his body motionless for hours. These artificial observation posts were masterpieces of concealment, constructed by studying actual trees on the battlefield, then building exact steel replicas under cover of darkness. The old tree would be removed, and the false one planted in its place before dawn, becoming an invisible sentinel that could mean the difference between a successful artillery strike and a devastating counterattack. The construction of these steel trees required intimate knowledge of the landscape, not just how it looked, but how it changed with seasons, weather, and the passage of armies. Engineers studied the angle of branches, the pattern of bark, even the way morning light caught on damaged wood. They understood what modern survivalists know instinctively. The true camouflage isn't about hiding, but about belonging so completely to an environment that you become part of its natural rhythm. Soldiers learned to read landscapes like texts, identifying which features would provide cover, which could be modified without arousing suspicion, and which should be left entirely alone because their alteration would signal human presence more clearly than a flag. Perhaps the most ingenious application of landscape manipulation came through decoy installations. British starfish sites were elaborate theatrical productions designed to save cities from aerial bombardment. Engineers would construct false urban areas in rural locations, complete with simulated streets, buildings made from wooden frames and canvas, and controlled fires that mimicked burning neighborhoods. When German bombers approached on moonless nights, these decoy sites would be ignited in carefully choreographed sequences, drawing bombers away from actual population centers. The deception worked because it exploited the attacker's expectations. From altitude, through smoke and darkness, burning timber and oil, looked exactly like a bombed city district. The creation of these decoys required understanding not just visual appearance, but thermal signatures, the behavior of fire, and even the psychology of pilots under stress making split-second decisions. Soldiers manning these sites had to maintain the illusion while sheltering from the very bombs they were attracting, a task requiring nerves of steel and absolute faith in their shelter's construction. They became masters of controlled fire management, understanding wind patterns, fuel loads, and the timing needed to create convincing conflagrations without actually destroying their carefully built props. These same skills, reading weather, managing fire, creating diversions, and building structures that serve one purpose while appearing to serve another, form the foundation of advanced bushcraft and tactical thinking that remains relevant in any survival scenario where deception might mean the difference between discovery and safety. The landscape deceptions of World War I teach us that true fieldcraft goes beyond basic skills to encompass a complete philosophy of environmental integration. Those soldiers who survived weren't just hardy, they were observant, adaptive, and willing to learn from the land itself. They understood that nature provides not just resources, but also templates for concealment, that the best shelter is one that looks like it's always been there, and that survival often depends less on what you build than on how completely it belongs to its surroundings. In our modern world of satellite surveillance and thermal imaging, these lessons haven't become obsolete. They've become more crucial than ever. The same principles that conceal bunkers beneath alpine meadows can inform how we construct emergency shelters, cache supplies, or, simply move through wilderness without leaving traces of our passage. As you develop your own fieldcraft skills, remember that the greatest warriors of the Great War weren't those who fought hardest, but those who thought deepest about their relationship with the landscape. They survived because they became students of their environment, and that remains, really, the most valuable lesson any of us can carry forward into whatever challenges tomorrow might bring. If this journey into forgotten survival techniques has sparked something in you, subscribe to Fieldcraft Chronicles and share this with others who understand that history isn't just about remembering the past. It's about carrying forward the hard-won wisdom that kept people alive when everything else failed. The skills that mattered then still matter now, and every technique we preserve is a gift to those who will need them in the future.